A gemstone can look breathtaking in a jewelry store and become a complete disappointment 6 months later. Some stones crack under ordinary life. Some slowly lose the very beauty that made people buy them in the first place. And one gemstone in today's market is so fragile that certain jewelers quietly refuse to set it at all. But the opposite is also true. A few rare gemstones survive decades of daily wear while still looking extraordinary years later. Some become family heirlooms. Some quietly increase in collector demand, and a handful deliver something almost impossible in modern luxury jewelry: beauty without regret. The problem is that most buyers cannot tell the difference just by looking, because the jewelry industry rarely explains which gemstones are actually built for real life, and which ones only look impressive under perfect lighting and careful photography. Today, 4 gemstones experts often warn buyers to avoid for jewelry, and 6 that are genuinely worth every dollar, starting with a stone so delicate even water can become part of the problem. Number 10. Selenite, the beautiful disaster. Under soft lighting, selenite can look almost unreal. Long, glowing fibers, smooth moon-like transparency, a pale white shimmer that makes ordinary gemstones feel heavy and lifeless beside it. In jewelry stores and online crystal boutiques, the stone often appears elegant, rare, even luxurious. And that illusion is exactly what makes it dangerous for jewelry buyers, because selenite is not built for real life. A fingernail can scratch it. A rough tabletop can permanently damage it. Even prolonged exposure to moisture and humidity can slowly change its surface over time. While harder gemstones survive decades of daily wear, selenite behaves more like a delicate sculpture than a wearable stone. That reality surprises many first-time buyers because photographs hide the problem beautifully. Under controlled lighting, polished selenite can resemble glowing satin or frozen light. The visual effect feels calming, ethereal, almost magical. For viewers drawn toward soft spiritual aesthetics, the attraction is immediate, and that emotional pull often overrides practical judgment. But jewelry experiences friction constantly. Rings strike countertops, bracelets rub against desks, pendants collide with fabric, skin, and metal chains. Selenite handles those interactions poorly. What begins as a luminous gemstone can quickly become cloudy, scratched, chipped, or dull-looking after surprisingly little use. Some jewelers quietly avoid setting it altogether, not because the stone lacks beauty, but because repair requests become inevitable. Tiny abrasions accumulate fast. Edges lose clarity. Surfaces begin looking worn long before owners expect them to. And unlike tougher gemstones that develop character with age, damaged selenite often loses the very glow that made people fall in love with it in the first place. That does not make selenite worthless. In mineral collections, decorative carvings, or carefully protected display pieces, it remains mesmerizing. Massive crystal towers from Morocco can look breathtaking under warm light. Large, untouched specimens often resemble something excavated from another planet. But jewelry is different. A gemstone worn every day must survive reality, not photography. And that is where selenite fails one of the most important tests in fine jewelry: longevity. Beauty alone is never enough if a stone cannot preserve that beauty under normal life, especially when there are other gemstones capable of delivering elegance without demanding constant protection. Because the smartest jewelry purchases are not the ones that look stunning for a moment. They are the ones still looking stunning years later. Number 9. Spinel, the stone. History forgot. For centuries, some of the most powerful people on Earth believed they were wearing rubies. Kings wore them into coronations. Emperors displayed them in royal treasures. Collectors guarded them behind palace walls. One famous red gemstone set into the British imperial state crown was celebrated for generations as a legendary ruby before science finally revealed the truth. It was Spinel. That revelation changed the gemstone world quietly but permanently, because once gemologists began separating Spinel from ruby, something unexpected happened. Experts realized the overlooked stone had extraordinary qualities of its own, and unlike many fashionable gemstones today, Spinel actually survives real jewelry wear remarkably well. Its hardness and toughness make it suitable for rings, pendants, earrings, and heirloom pieces intended to last decades instead of seasons. Daily wear does not immediately cloud its surface. Tiny impacts that might damage softer stones often leave spinel untouched. Even after years of use, high-quality specimens can maintain their brilliance with surprisingly little maintenance. But durability is only part of the reason collectors have become increasingly fascinated by it. Spinel possesses a kind of visual intensity that cameras rarely capture properly. Fine red spinels from Myanmar can glow with an almost electric warmth under natural light. Cobalt blue spinels from Vietnam often display a crisp vividness that feels unusually clean and modern compared to darker sapphires. Some stones appear internally lit, as though color is floating beneath the surface rather than sitting on top of it. And because Spinel spent so much of history hidden beneath ruby's reputation, the market undervalued it for generations. That mistake created one of the rarest things left in luxury jewelry: genuine discovery value. In recent years, collectors and independent jewelers have quietly paid far more attention to fine spinel, especially untreated stones with strong saturation and high clarity. Prices have climbed steadily, but many pieces still remain surprisingly accessible compared to top rubies with similar visual impact. There is also another advantage wealthy buyers increasingly appreciate: individuality. Spinel does not carry the same mass-market familiarity as diamonds or commercial sapphires. It feels more personal, more informed, almost like a gemstone chosen by someone who understands jewelry deeply rather than simply recognizing famous names. That distinction matters more than many people realize, because the most satisfying jewelry purchases are rarely the loudest or most obvious ones. Often they are the stones hiding quietly in plain sight while the rest of the market looks somewhere else entirely. And few gemstones represent that idea better than Spinel. Number 8. Fluorite, the luxury illusion. At first glance, fluorite can look astonishingly expensive. Electric purples, deep ocean blues, transparent greens that seem to glow from within under soft lighting. Some specimens display color zoning so dramatic they almost appear artificially painted. On social media and online gemstone shops, fluorite often photographs like a fantasy version of luxury jewelry, vivid, luminous, and impossibly clean, and that visual beauty has trapped countless buyers into making the wrong decision. Because fluorite is one of the clearest examples of a gemstone that performs far worse than it looks. In controlled environments, the stone can appear breathtaking. Collectors frequently display large fluorite crystals under museum lighting because the colors react beautifully to illumination. Under the right conditions, high-grade fluorite can rival gemstones many times its price in pure visual impact. But jewelry does not exist in controlled environments. It exists in kitchens, parking lots, restaurants, office desks, handbags, bathrooms, and everyday accidents. And fluorite handles that reality poorly. The stone scratches easily, chips along edges, and loses polish much faster than buyers expect from something that appears so luxurious. Even simple daily friction can begin dulling its surface over time. That disconnect between appearance and durability is exactly what makes fluorite dangerous in jewelry. The brain associates vivid color with value and strength. Consumers naturally assume a gemstone that looks rich and vibrant must also behave like a premium stone. Fluorite breaks that expectation completely. Many first-time buyers discover the problem only after wearing it regularly. Tiny abrasions begin softening the shine. Facet edges lose crispness. Rings become visibly worn after surprisingly short periods of use, and once damage accumulates, fluorite rarely ages gracefully. That matters because jewelry is emotional. People attach memories to rings, pendants, and gifted pieces. A gemstone expected to last years can become disappointing remarkably fast when its surface begins looking tired after ordinary wear, especially when stronger alternatives exist at similar price points. Ironically, fluorite remains genuinely fascinating as a collector mineral. Large natural specimens from China, Mexico, and England can look extraordinary in display cases. Some pieces resemble frozen galaxies or glowing stained glass carved by nature itself, but admiration and wearability are not the same thing. A gemstone can be visually spectacular and still fail as long-term jewelry, and fluorite teaches that lesson more aggressively than almost any other stone in the market, because the most convincing luxury illusion is often the one that looks perfect under a camera lens, right before real life touches it. Number 7. Sapphire, built to outlive you. Long before modern luxury brands existed, sapphires were already associated with permanence. Royal families wore them during coronations. Ancient rulers believed the stone symbolized wisdom and protection. Even today, some of the most famous engagement rings in the world still center around sapphire rather than diamond, and that enduring reputation was never built on marketing alone. Sapphires earned trust the hard way, by surviving generations of real wear. Unlike softer gemstones that demand constant caution, sapphire was practically designed for everyday jewelry. Its exceptional hardness allows it to resist scratches from ordinary life far better than most colored stones on the market. Rings worn daily for decades can still maintain crisp facets, strong brilliance, and deep color when properly cared for. That reliability changes the entire emotional experience of ownership. There is a different kind of confidence attached to jewelry that does not need to be treated like fragile glass. A sapphire ring can move through airports, restaurants, weddings, offices, family gatherings, and years of routine life without creating constant anxiety. That practicality matters more than many buyers initially realize, because eventually jewelry stops being about display. It becomes part of someone's personal history. Few gemstones handle that transition better than sapphire. Deep blue stones from Sri Lanka and Kashmir carry a richness that feels timeless rather than trendy. Australian sapphires often display darker, mysterious tones that appeal to buyers wanting something more understated. Fancy sapphires in pink, yellow, and even peach colors have also grown increasingly popular among collectors searching for individuality without sacrificing durability. And unlike many fashionable jewelry stones that surge briefly before fading from attention, sapphire rarely feels temporary. The stone possesses a visual seriousness that ages remarkably well. Trends shift, settings change, jewelry styles evolve across decades. Sapphire somehow continues fitting naturally into nearly all of them. That long-term versatility is part of what makes the gemstone genuinely worth the investment. Many buyers focus only on appearance in the beginning, color, sparkle, size, but experienced collectors eventually begin prioritizing something else entirely: survivability. Not just physical durability, but emotional durability. The ability for a gemstone to remain meaningful year after year instead of becoming another forgotten purchase. Sapphire excels at both. There is a reason families pass sapphire jewelry between generations instead of replacing it constantly. The stone does not merely survive wear, it absorbs memory without losing identity. And in a market crowded with gemstones that prioritize short-term visual impact, that kind of permanence becomes surprisingly rare. Especially in jewelry meant to stay beautiful long after trends disappear. Number 6. Opal, the heartbreak stone. No gemstone creates emotional attachment faster than opal. Under shifting light, the surface can explode with electric blues, burning greens, flashes of orange, violet, even sudden streaks of crimson that appear and disappear like moving fire trapped beneath glass. The effect feels alive, almost supernatural. And for many jewelry buyers, that visual magic becomes impossible to forget after seeing it in person. That is exactly why so many people ignore the warning signs, because opal is not merely purchased for beauty, it is purchased for emotion. Unlike diamonds or sapphires, opals often feel deeply personal from the beginning. The colors never appear identical from one angle to another, which creates the strange sensation that the gemstone belongs uniquely to its owner. Many buyers describe becoming emotionally obsessed with the movement inside the stone itself. And then real life begins. Opals are significantly softer and more delicate than many people realize when buying jewelry. Sudden temperature changes, accidental impacts, dryness, prolonged moisture exposure, and even everyday wear can gradually create problems over time. Tiny internal fractures may appear unexpectedly. Surface scratches accumulate faster than expected. In some cases, the famous play of color that made the gemstone mesmerizing can slowly lose intensity. That transformation can feel genuinely upsetting for owners who purchase the stone expecting permanence, especially in rings. Daily wear opal rings often become cautionary stories inside jewelry repair shops because the stone simply was not designed to handle constant physical stress the same way sapphire or ruby can. A single hard strike against a countertop may damage an opal permanently, and unlike harder gemstones that frequently survive decades with minimal visible wear, opals demand ongoing caution almost every day they are worn. None of this makes opal a bad gemstone. In protected settings like earrings, pendants, collector jewelry, or occasional wear pieces, high-quality Australian black opals and Ethiopian opals can look absolutely extraordinary. Some display color patterns so dramatic they resemble galaxies, lightning storms, or liquid auroras trapped inside stone. But beauty and durability are not the same category. That distinction matters enormously in fine jewelry, because the most painful jewelry regrets rarely come from ugly gemstones. They come from gemstones people loved too much to leave unworn, even when the stone itself could not survive the life attached to it. And few gemstones illustrate that emotional contradiction more clearly than opal. Stunning under light, mesmerizing in motion, yet often heartbreaking when expected to endure everyday reality year after year. Number 5. Alexandrite, the impossible gemstone. In daylight, it can appear green. Under warm evening light, the same stone may suddenly turn red, violet, or raspberry-colored right before the eyes. Not gradually, not subtly. The transformation can feel so unnatural in person that many first-time viewers assume lighting tricks are involved. But Alexandrite is real, and few gemstones create stronger reactions once seen outside a display case. Discovered in Russia during the 19th century, Alexandrite quickly developed an almost mythical reputation because of its dramatic color change effect. Even among experienced gem collectors, fine natural Alexandrite remains one of the most difficult stones to describe accurately through photographs alone. Cameras often flatten the effect. Real life does not. That difference matters, because Alexandrite delivers something modern luxury buyers increasingly chase: surprise. In a jewelry market crowded with familiar stones and predictable sparkle, Alexandrite still feels mysterious. The gemstone behaves differently depending on time of day, environment, and light source, which gives ownership an unusually interactive emotional quality. The stone never feels completely static. But Alexandrite is not merely valuable because it changes color beautifully. It also performs exceptionally well in jewelry. Its durability makes it suitable for rings and long-term wear, especially compared to softer collector stones that require constant caution. That combination, rarity, visual phenomenon, and practical survivability, is extraordinarily difficult to find in gemstones. Most stones succeed in one category and fail in another. Alexandrite somehow succeeds in all of them simultaneously, and scarcity only intensifies the fascination. Fine natural Alexandrite is genuinely rare, especially stones displaying strong color change performance with good clarity and saturation. High-quality examples from Russia, Brazil, and Sri Lanka can command astonishing prices among serious collectors because the gemstone occupies a unique psychological space in luxury jewelry. It does not merely look expensive, it feels impossible. That distinction changes how people emotionally respond to it. Diamonds impress through brilliance. Rubies command attention through intensity. Alexandrite creates obsession through uncertainty. Buyers continue staring at it because the gemstone never seems fully predictable under changing light. Even years later, many owners still catch themselves checking the stone under restaurant lighting, sunlight, or evening lamps, just to watch the transformation happen again. Very few gemstones maintain that level of fascination long term, and that is part of what makes Alexandrite genuinely worth the investment, not only because of rarity or market value, but because the stone continues delivering discovery long after the purchase itself is over, almost like owning a gemstone that refuses to reveal its full identity all at once. Number 4. Calcite, nature's warning. Some minerals were never meant to survive life outside a display case. Calcite is one of them. At a glance, the stone can seem surprisingly attractive for jewelry. Certain specimens display warm honey tones, icy transparency, soft ocean blues, or glowing amber colors that photograph beautifully under controlled lighting. Polished correctly, calcite can appear smooth, elegant, and almost luxurious to inexperienced buyers browsing online gemstone marketplaces. But geology tells a very different story. Calcite is extraordinarily vulnerable to everyday damage. The stone scratches easily, loses polish quickly, and reacts poorly to ordinary environmental exposure that tougher gemstones handle without difficulty. Even common household substances can become a problem. Mild acids, accidental chemical contact, and long-term wear gradually attack the surface in ways many owners never expect until the damage becomes visible. That vulnerability creates one of the biggest disconnects in jewelry psychology. Consumers often assume gemstones are naturally durable simply because they are minerals. But nature never designed every mineral to survive rings, bracelets, or decades of physical contact. Some crystals evolved under delicate geological conditions that produce visual beauty without structural resilience. Calcite is a perfect example. In mineral collections, large calcite formations can look extraordinary. Cave formations built from calcite have fascinated humans for centuries. Under ultraviolet light, some specimens even glow dramatically. Museums and collectors value the mineral because of its geological diversity and visual softness. Jewelry demands something entirely different. A wearable gemstone must endure pressure, friction, impact, oils from skin, changing temperatures, dust particles, fabric abrasion, and years of accidental contact with hard surfaces. Calcite struggles against almost all of those conditions. Over time, even careful owners may notice fading polish, softened edges, fine scratches, or surfaces that begin appearing tired and worn far sooner than expected. That aging process matters emotionally, because jewelry is rarely purchased for a few months. Engagement rings, anniversary gifts, inherited pendants, and meaningful personal pieces carry emotional timelines attached to them. A gemstone that deteriorates visibly under normal life can slowly weaken the emotional attachment people originally felt toward the piece itself. And experienced jewelers understand this well. Many professionals hesitate to recommend calcite for everyday jewelry not because the stone lacks beauty, but because the long-term outcome is too predictable. The visual elegance simply cannot compete against the physical reality of daily wear. That truth may sound harsh. But in fine jewelry, honesty matters more than temporary visual appeal, especially when there are stronger gemstones capable of delivering beauty without sacrificing longevity. Because a gemstone should not require isolation from ordinary life simply to remain attractive. And calcite often does exactly that. Number 3. Ruby, the stone that refused to die. Empires disappeared. Dynasties collapsed. Entire royal bloodlines vanished into history. Rubies remained valuable through all of it. For thousands of years, no colored gemstone carried more authority, obsession, or symbolic power than ruby. Ancient Burmese warriors believed the stone made them nearly invincible in battle. Medieval kings embedded rubies into crowns and ceremonial armor because the deep red color became associated with strength, protection, and dominance itself. And unlike many legendary gemstones whose reputations faded with time, ruby never truly lost its status. Part of that endurance comes from rarity. Fine natural rubies with rich saturated color are extraordinarily difficult to find, especially untreated stones with strong clarity and vivid red fluorescence. But rarity alone does not explain ruby's long-term survival in luxury jewelry. The gemstone also performs exceptionally well in the real world. Ruby belongs to the corundum family alongside sapphire, which means it possesses remarkable hardness and durability for everyday wear. Rings worn for decades can still maintain sharp facet edges and strong brilliance under proper care. That physical resilience transformed ruby from a symbol of royal luxury into something even more important, a gemstone capable of carrying history physically intact across generations. Very few stones accomplish that successfully. There is also something psychologically different about ruby compared to other luxury gemstones. Sapphires often feel elegant. Diamonds feel brilliant. Emeralds feel aristocratic. Rubies feel alive. The finest specimens possess a warmth and internal intensity that can appear almost biological under natural light, especially stones from Myanmar displaying the legendary pigeon blood color collectors obsess over. That emotional intensity explains why rubies continue attracting buyers despite changing trends in fashion and jewelry design. The stone does not depend on trends to maintain relevance. It survived centuries before modern marketing existed, and in many ways, that historical continuity increases its emotional weight today. Wearing ruby often feels less like following luxury fashion and more like participating in a much older human fascination with power, rarity, and permanence. Collectors understand this deeply. High-end, untreated rubies continue commanding extraordinary prices because the market recognizes something important. True top-quality rubies are becoming increasingly scarce. Mines produce fewer exceptional stones than they once did, while global demand for elite-colored gemstones continues rising steadily among collectors and investors alike. But beyond rarity or price, ruby delivers something many gemstones fail to sustain long-term: emotional presence. Even after years of ownership, fine rubies rarely feel ordinary. The color still commands attention. The symbolism still feels powerful. The stone still carries the same visual authority that captivated rulers centuries ago. And in luxury jewelry, that kind of timeless psychological impact is incredibly difficult to replace. Number 2. Tourmaline, the endless discovery. Most gemstones become predictable eventually. Diamonds are expected to sparkle. Rubies are expected to glow red. Sapphires are expected to live somewhere in the blue spectrum, but tourmaline behaves differently. The deeper collectors explore the stone, the stranger and more fascinating it becomes. One variety can glow neon blue like tropical electricity. Another can shift from green to pink within the same crystal. Some appear almost black until sunlight suddenly reveals hidden flashes of deep forest green or midnight blue beneath the surface. Tourmaline does not feel like a single gemstone. It feels like an entire world hidden inside one mineral family. That endless variety is one of the biggest reasons serious jewelry collectors continue returning to it year after year. The stone offers something increasingly rare in modern luxury markets, the feeling that there is always another extraordinary discovery waiting somewhere deeper inside the category. And unlike many visually dramatic gemstones, tourmaline also performs well in jewelry. Its durability makes it practical enough for daily wear in rings, pendants, and custom luxury pieces without forcing owners into constant anxiety about damage. That balance between beauty, individuality, and survivability gives tourmaline a remarkably strong long-term value proposition compared to trend-driven collector stones that sacrifice practicality for appearance. But the real fascination begins at the highest levels of the market. Paraíba tourmaline changed the gemstone industry almost overnight after its discovery in Brazil during the late 20th century. The stone's electric neon glow looked so unnatural that many early buyers assumed artificial enhancement was involved. Yet the color was completely natural, caused by trace amounts of copper within the crystal structure itself. Fine Paraíba specimens now command astonishing prices because almost nothing else in the gemstone world looks remotely similar under natural light. And even beyond Paraíba, tourmaline continues surprising collectors constantly. Watermelon tourmaline crystals with green outer layers and vivid pink centers look almost impossible when sliced open naturally. Chrome tourmalines display rich, saturated greens rivaling fine emeralds. Some Afghan and Nigerian stones exhibit colors so vivid they appear internally illuminated. That diversity creates a different emotional experience than traditional luxury gemstones. Tourmaline ownership often feels exploratory rather than predictable. Collectors do not simply purchase one stone and stop. They become curious about the next variety, the next origin, the next unusual color combination nature somehow managed to produce underground millions of years ago. Very few gemstones sustain curiosity that effectively over time, and that is precisely what makes tourmaline worth the investment. Not only because it survives real-world jewelry wear beautifully, but because the gemstone continues rewarding attention long after the novelty of ownership should have faded. Almost like a category of discoveries disguised as a single stone. Number 1. Diamond, the truth. Everyone oversimplified. Few gemstones have been criticized more aggressively in modern culture than diamonds. Too commercial. Too common, too expensive, too dependent on marketing, and yet despite decades of backlash, diamonds still dominate fine jewelry across much of the world. Engagement rings, luxury watches, high-end earrings, anniversary pieces, royal collections. The stone continues sitting at the center of the industry with remarkable consistency. That persistence is not an accident. Because while marketing absolutely shaped diamond demand historically, many people oversimplified the deeper reason diamonds became dominant in the first place. Almost no other gemstone handles everyday life this effectively while still maintaining elite visual performance. Diamonds resist scratching better than any natural gemstone commonly used in jewelry. Daily wear that gradually softens softer stones often leaves diamonds looking nearly unchanged years later. Rings passed across generations can retain brilliance through decades of constant use, which fundamentally changes how the stone behaves emotionally over time. A diamond is not merely purchased for appearance, it is purchased because owners expect permanence. That expectation matters enormously in jewelry psychology. Engagement rings are worn while driving, traveling, cooking, working, cleaning, aging, and living ordinary life. Most gemstones eventually show those years physically. Diamonds often survive them with astonishing resilience, but durability alone does not explain their continued dominance. The finest diamonds also interact with light in ways few gemstones can fully replicate. Exceptional cutting creates sharp internal reflections, rapid white light return, and controlled fire that produce an unmistakable visual crispness under movement. Cheap, poorly cut diamonds may appear lifeless, but elite stones can look almost liquid under natural lighting conditions. And that distinction reveals the biggest misunderstanding in the modern diamond conversation. Size matters far less than quality. Experienced buyers increasingly prioritize cut precision, light performance, proportions, and overall balance rather than simply chasing maximum carat weight. A smaller, beautifully cut diamond often appears dramatically more luxurious than a larger, dull stone lacking brilliance. That subtlety separates informed jewelry buying from pure status consumption. There is also another reason diamonds continue holding long-term value emotionally: neutrality. Unlike trend-driven colored gemstones that move in and out of popularity cycles, diamonds integrate naturally into nearly every jewelry style across generations. Vintage pieces, minimalist settings, modern luxury designs, heirloom jewelry, the stone adapts without feeling trapped inside a particular era. That flexibility gives diamonds unusual longevity both physically and culturally. And perhaps that is the real reason the gemstone never disappeared despite endless criticism. Not because people were manipulated into loving diamonds forever, but because the stone solved a problem very few other gemstones solved equally well. How to remain beautiful after decades of real life. And in fine jewelry, that ability is far rarer than many people realize. Some gemstones look extraordinary for a moment, others stay extraordinary for decades, and in fine jewelry, that difference matters more than most buyers realize. Because the best gemstones are not just beautiful under display lights, they survive real life, daily wear, time, memory, even generations. That is why some stones quietly become heirlooms, while others become regret. In the end, true luxury is not about the brightest sparkle on the first day. It is about which gemstones still deserve to be worn years later.